I want to pick up first with the quote that I used last week from John Indermark. I found out who he was. He's a United Church of Christ minister and author who said, spiritual life and transformation are ultimately about coming down off the mountain and living the transformed life in places where fear runs rampant and love is in short supply. And it seems like a lot of the time when we look at our world, we see fear running rampant and love in short supply. But I want to talk today about the way that we live into a different future as a species called humankind, as we live into the future of you and me, not just as citizens of our neighborhood, but as citizens of the entire universe. I think it's that universal viewpoint that will help us end the rampancy of fear and the seeming lack of love that exists in our world. Because I think it's the viewpoint of knowing who we are and who we are one with and how beloved and powerful and quite miraculous we really are, that lets us bring a different energy to all of life. I was thinking about the fact that people of my age and younger grew up from the beginning. I mean, I remember that, first manned space thingy. I think I was 5, but I remember it happening. We grew up knowing that the picture of the world from space that no one had ever seen before. We grew up knowing that space was filled with stars and moons and planets and galaxies far beyond what we could see. And then all of us, of course, have seen all of the amazing photos from Hubble telescope that taught us about the far-flung places of the universe. There's that great picture of deep space. They took a square inch of space and focused on it with the Hubble telescope and kept blowing it up and blowing it up and blowing it up until we could see that it is riddled with stars and galaxies and all manner of things. We've begun to really think about the universe, not just about, our planet and that thing we see in the night sky that we call the moon and a few stars, but instead this vastness of space that's filled with beautiful, amazing things like the galaxies that spawn new stars, the nebula that spawn new stars that come in wild and wonderful shapes. Like there's one called the Horsehead Nebula, and there's the Eagle Nebula, and all of these amazing things that we've now seen pictures of, and just sort of sit back and say, wow, I live in this, I'm part of all this. So we have this glorious, vast space, and then we have our planet with 7.3 billion other people right now, where change is happening so fast that sometimes it feels like we can't even keep up for a day at a time. Change. There's going to be more change in the next 25 years than there has been in the past 200,000 year history of mankind, because it changes every single day. Technology, medicine, media, everything is changing at just this breakneck speed. It's pretty dizzying. It can be really dizzying at times and frightening, I think, because we don't know sort of what's going to happen next. And annoying, because we buy a computer that in a year or so is obsolete. And we wonder why we have such a slow computer now. Remember when you first get it, it's like, wow, this is the fastest thing ever. And then within a year, you see somebody else's who's like doing spins around yours, and then it's obsolete, right? And then they quit making software for it, and then you're really in trouble. So it can get annoying and frightening, but it can also be quite exhilarating, this change that's happening. Right here, where we live in this moment means that within our very lifetime, we stand a really good chance of seeing the next transformational outcome of our human experience and our human experiment in life. We could see that. We could see things shift entirely in our world, because it appears that there are a significant number of human beings who are actually getting this idea that we're all in it together. We're all over the world. We are right now, because of that realization, taking the most important critical step toward a more peaceful world, just by realizing we're all in it together. And we're starting to understand the paradox between individual and collective that we've been out of balance on, I think, for so long. You know, it was tribal, and then it was culture, and then it was nation state, and then it was me. And so there's a balance between us individually and us collectively. And because we're starting to understand that, we're starting to be able to let go of the forces of discrimination that have subjected women and people of color and LGBT people and lots of other people to some pretty difficult pressures. We're beginning to come to the place where we can let that go within ourselves, and once we let it go within ourselves, we begin to let it go culturally, right? Because culture is just us, after all. And so we're starting to see it. We're starting to see the seeds that were planted a long time ago bear fruit, and it's waking us up. And the things that used to kill us, do you know that at the turn of the 20th century, the average lifespan was 39? We've come a long way. What used to kill us, pestilence and disease, we're making different choices. We're trying to live more sustainably and healthier, and we're trying to make more conscious choices on a daily basis so that we enjoy this long life we've been given.